Welcome to video 9.9a, Introduction to Trigonometry. Let's start off with some basic vocabulary. I have a right triangle shown here, and I've got a reference angle that I've labeled as theta. That's a Greek letter which denotes angle or angle measure. Alright, the first thing I do is I label the hypotenuse. So it's always across from the right angle. Then, depending on which angle I selected as my reference angle, I go across from that and label that as opposite. And then the last side I label as adjacent. If I go in that order, I don't get hypotenuse and adjacent confused. Okay, now let's jump to this little diagram here. So notice I've got a big right triangle and a small right triangle. And these two triangles are similar by angle-angle similarity. Note, they both have a right angle, 90 degrees, and they both share angle A. So this angle and this angle is congruent to that angle and that angle. Once I've got similarity, then the ratios of corresponding sides are equal. And that's the whole basis for trigonometry. Okay, so take a look. Let's call this my reference angle. This opposite over this hypotenuse is going to be equivalent to this opposite over this hypotenuse. 4 over 5 equals 8 over 10. Or I could take different ratios. I could say this adjacent side is to this hypotenuse would be equal to this adjacent side over that hypotenuse. 3 over 5 equals 6 over 10. Or I could take another ratio. I could say this opposite 4 over this adjacent 3 is equal to this opposite 8 over this adjacent 6. And all we've done is come up with new words to describe these ratios. Instead of saying opposite over hypotenuse side, I'm going to say sine. Instead of saying adjacent ratio over hypotenuse, I'm going to say cosine. Instead of saying the ratio of the opposite leg over the adjacent leg, I'm going to call that tangent. It's just a shortcut for describing ratios. All right, let's move on to our last picture over here. Again, I've got a right triangle, triangle ABC. We use capital letters for the vertex points and lowercase letters for the sides. And we always put the lowercase letter opposite the uppercase letter. All right, again, I've circled A to be my reference angle. It could have been A or B. Either acute angle can be your reference angle. And then I've labeled, again, hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. So now if I'm talking about the sine of angle A, S-I-N, it's opposite over hypotenuse, or in this case, A over C. Cosine of angle A, adjacent over hypotenuse, B over C. Tangent of angle A, opposite over adjacent, A over B. And here's a way to remember these ratios. Most students in math classes are taught this. Sohcahtoa. You gotta know how to spell that correctly, the ka. Sohcahtoa. S stands for sine, and the OH, opposite over hypotenuse. C stands for cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse. T is for tangent, opposite over adjacent. So there you have it. The basis of trigonometry formed on similar triangles.